I'm Shannon Dicus, the Sheriff of San Bernardino County. That's SHANNONDICUS. Over the last 6 days since this fire started, I have witnessed across this county amazing heroism by our first responders, both local, state operators that have assisted in this massive incident for this county. Just to give you a little bit of an overview, this fire has affected a little bit over 35,000 acres. It's 14% contained, at least at this point. And as far as looking at the impacts of this incident, about 73,000 complete structures have been threatened by this fire. And when that translates to our citizens in this county, approximately 100,000 citizens. And that's why it's so important for me to be here to make that announcement. But prior to me talking about this case and giving you specifics about the arrest of this suspect, I want to make sure that I make an announcement. Our deputy sheriffs and our local collaborators are out there making sure our homes are protected. Not only our deputy sheriffs and our firefighters, we live in these communities. We've also been evacuated. We're going to make sure that the public knows that their homes are our homes. In the Running Springs area, we have already taken 2 suspects into custody who are actively burglarizing residents and being those opportunists. And I'm drawing a line in the sand when it comes to things like this. If you're going to be an opportunist in San Bernardino County and we catch you, you are going to jail. My deputies and I will ensure that, and I know we have a DA that will prosecute you. With that information, during this entire case, as this fire started off, our deputies and CAL FIRE arson investigators started looking at leads and conducting an extremely comprehensive investigation. I could not be more proud of them. And to give you details about that investigation, I'd like to introduce CAL FIRE Battalion Chief Matt Kirkhart to start that off. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Battalion Chief Matt Kirkhart with CAL FIRE San Bernardino Unit. I am the supervisor over the Law Enforcement and Investigations Unit for our unit. On September 5th, Highland City Fire Department was notified of a vegetation fire at approximately 5:45. CAL FIRE law enforcement was in the area, and we arrived quickly to begin the initial investigation. The early investigation included an origin and cause determination of the fire, video and ALPR review, ALPR being automatic license plate readers, and then working with on-scene Highland deputies to gather and follow up on witness information and statements. On September 6th, we entered into a joint investigation with our partners, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, specifically the Highland Station Detective Bureau. When we joined into the joint investigation, we continued our in-depth review and collection of evidence, which led to an identifying a suspect vehicle and a suspect. I'd like to turn it over to my partner, Detective Jake Kent.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jacob Hernandez. I'm a detective at the Highland Station with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. That's JACOBHERNANDEZ. On September 6th, I was assigned to work a collaborative investigation with the San Bernardino CAL FIRE law enforcement. On September 10th, we located and detained the suspect. At that time, we conducted a search warrant at the suspect's residence at the 1000 block of Detroit Street in the city of Norco. During the service of that warrant, evidence was located inside the suspect's residence as well as his vehicle that supported his arrest. Later last night, the suspect was booked at West Valley Detention Center for arson. As of this morning, a bail enhancement, the no bail, was granted. And as of now, our reports, once they're completed, will be forwarded to the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office for filing.
As you can imagine, investigations like this are ongoing. From what I know about the investigation techniques and the forensics that both CAL FIRE investigators used in our department are nothing short of amazing. It's my belief that as time goes on and we allow them to do the critical work that they're doing, that we will actually find out this suspect may have been responsible for other fires. And I'm sure there are going to be many questions about that, of the who, what, why, when, and where. And right now, I'll just simply ask for your patience as we allow them to do the brilliant work that they do. But I think it's important, as we know the numbers that I gave you earlier about our citizens and our public that have been displaced, that we are making sure we're finding justice for them. And we're going to continue to do the brilliant job that I'm watching day in and day out of our firefighters doing and our law enforcement personnel. So far, we do not have any report of loss of life, just structures. We're going to do our very best to keep it that way. The fire behavior in this fire, from the briefings that we've had from our fire partners, has been some of the strangest and not, let's just say, not typical of fire science, is what's being explained to me. And we are constantly flexing and moving. What I've seen in the last 48 hours scrambling to our local communities has been nothing short of amazing. And I'm including our public in that. The cooperation that we're receiving from our public for the evacuations has been just phenomenal. We trained for this, and you hope you never, ever have to use this type of technique to do these evacuations, particularly under these rapidly evolving circumstances. But I'm very proud of our department, our collaborators, and I couldn't be more proud of this investigation, because people are going to want to know who and what was responsible for doing that. And between CAL FIRE and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, we're going to be able to bring that level of justice to them. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions, and I will be frank if I can't answer those questions, but I'm going to do my very best to answer those for you with the professionals behind me. Rob, go ahead. I saw your hand up first. While we're still in the thrust of the preliminary investigation, we believe this was intentional. A lot of it is technology and different things that we knew. You know, there are camera systems that cover a wide variety of areas. People use cell phones and things of that nature. We are working on really collating all of that type of evidence right now. And those types of technologies are what's helping us to really track, in this case, the suspect's involvement. I don't think we want to release that at this point, because that will be one of those pieces of evidence that does allow us to connect it to multiple fires, if that's in fact what we find during the investigation. Yes, sir. No, that's a great question. So right now, if we were to take us all out into the field and see what's going on, there are over 150 law enforcement officers from all the collaborators I mentioned earlier. And also, it's been very beneficial to us. The governor pre-staged a National Guard unit, approximately 120 folks. And what we've been able to do to provide that protection and that security, as we go through and we clear those areas that are under evacuation order, they drop in behind us and they become the security along with Sheriff's Department personnel or a local law enforcement collaborator. And let me explain why that's critically important and has worked very well in this fire. As this fire has changed that fire behavior, as I described earlier, and its erraticness, if you will, what we're able to do is we're equipped with those high-low sirens and things that we put out to the public and make sure that under those circumstances where it's going to be a very brief contact at each residence, that technology has allowed us to really flex and move. So as you can imagine, if the National Guard's flowing in behind us, we can ensure that the evacuated areas are secure, and at the same time, use our forces that are trained to do this mass evacuation. And we also have technology that, through GIS technology, locates the home, documents the home, whether or not some person is there, whether or not they're staying, evacuating, or refusing. So as you can imagine, as we're constantly going back into those neighborhoods and reassessing it, we can make sure the public's safe. And also, this is GIS located on a map for our firefighters for structure protection. And it just gives us that very clear situational awareness picture to make sure we're deploying resources in a manner in which we should do that. Brian. It'd be the vehicle. That's how they started out, was the vehicle, and that ultimately led to the other leads that ultimately led to the arrest of the suspect. You know what, Brian? I'm not sure, and I'll actually have the investigators come up and address that question for you. Real quick, Rob, did you have a question about that, or? Absolutely. Brian, let me get our investigators and see if there's anything they can answer that. I feel comfortable in answering that, and then Rob will get CAL FIRE up here for you. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
So he works for FedEx. He's a third contract delivery driver. So what he does is just goes from state to state and delivers at those FedEx warehouses that need the assistance. That's correct.
There were several vehicles that hit in that area. What we just continue to research and do further investigation to rule out other vehicles. So we ultimately came up with identifying factors to that was indeed our suspect vehicle. Not where we're in. I believe charge was the incendiary device, but without it really to talk about.
Yeah, hi, I'm Judd Gaines, Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 3. So yesterday, we did have some weather come in with the winds, low humidities. We issued, our local incident meteorologist issued a local red flag warning over the fire area. Fortunately, we did not get impacted as much as the airport and the bridge fire did yesterday, but we did have a significant growth in acreage yesterday. As you guys know, the fire is well established in the Santa Ana River drainage. It made its way into Bear Creek, got established down into Bear Creek, which is what threatened Big Bear, and which caused us to put a portion of Big Bear into an evacuation order yesterday. Right now, with the latest infrared flight that we've got and the tracking of where that was, we utilized drones and UAS last night into the early morning this year just to figure out exactly where the fire was down into that drainage. And we're still a couple miles out from Big Bear. But as you know, it doesn't take much for where it's aligned and where the fire is established in that Bear Creek drainage to come out onto that La Mesa Bluff up there near Boulder, community of Boulder on the west side of Big Bear, south of the lake. Yeah, so the fire impacted Running Springs yesterday afternoon and into the evening. We think there could be one structure destroyed up there, but we do have our damage inspection teams that are up there today verifying that. So I cannot give you an exact count as it came in, and I know our firefighters on the line were engaged in an active firefight yesterday afternoon and through the evening in the community of Running Springs. We do know we lost Keller Peak Lookout. The U.S. Forest Service lookout was destroyed yesterday. I can confirm that. I believe I don't have that exact history on that tower for you. I do, though. There's quite a bit of history in that lookout tower. Yeah, correct. There's several factors. Obviously, the fuel loading. We've had a significant heat spell this summer. Some of the hottest temperatures we've had in a long time, coupled with a couple of wet winters that we've had, which has caused the grass to grow very thick. But also with that big snow that we had down here a couple of years ago, that caused a lot of limbs to break. So we have a lot of dead and down fuel in there. And like you said, it is burning in areas with very little to no fire history that we're aware of. So, and then that St. Anna River drainage is a very dangerous place. So once it got established in there, we knew we had our hands full. Where this fire was started was one of those areas that we've trained on. We talk about it, the local fire departments, CAL FIRE, the Forest Service. We run scenarios on this fire, and it got established in an area we did not want it to go. So it's very difficult. As you know, that terrain's very steep, very rocky. It's hard for us to commit firefighters down into those drainages with the fire behavior we had. So it is fuel and terrain driven, most of this. And then, you throw in some low humidities and the winds that we had yesterday, and it pushes out. So firefighter safety is our number one priority. So we have to always make sure we're putting our firefighters in the safest place before we can, really try to pinch this off. So as we're doing that, we're also putting in some alternate and contingency lines at the same time that we're trying to go direct in the places we can. So we're looking at every opportunity we can. We're opening up old bulldozer lines from the El Dorado fire from a couple of years ago. The Radford fire that they had near Big Bear Lake, we're getting all that opened up, and we're using the fuel break that the San Bernardino National Forest has put in and around Big Bear Lake. So we are using that. That's been, they've been working on that for the last 10 years, and it's great. And I think we're going to get a good foothold up there. We'll just see how Mother Nature treats us today and kind of what it does. I think after today, the weather's going to change significantly. The temperatures are going to drop. The humidity is going to go up, which is going to allow us to start getting a good foothold in there. It's just going to depend what this fire does today. It's basically the fuel loading. So that we have a lot of fuel this year, a lot of grass, a lot of brush. We've had a lot of dead and down from all the snow that's in there. So it's all contributing to it. And then in areas with no fire history, it's just heavy fuel loading. And then the steep terrain drives that as well. Well, the sheriff, I'll let him speak a little bit on that. But as for CAL FIRE, we make the recommendations on our evacuation orders. The sheriffs are the kind of the ones that push that and track it. But on the CAL FIRE side, we recommend that you go. When we put it in an order, there's a reason. We don't do it just to do it. So you guys need to go. And then if you stay, that's the problem, is you're trying to get out when it does get bad. It creates havoc for our firefighters there, and it takes them away from extinguishing the fire to having to now to do rescues to get people out of areas that they should have been out already. So we try to give people as much advance notice as we can to get out. So for those of you that are in evacuation warnings right now, have a plan, have your stuff packed, be ready to go at a moment's notice. And when it is time to go, we suggest you go. But as far as how many have actually evacuated and then how many have stayed, the sheriff can talk to some of that kind of part.
No, Rob, to answer your question in terms of total population, we're still arriving on what that number is right now. But I want to give you an idea. I spoke to what technologies we're using as we evacuate. So just to give you some of those numbers, actual evacuated persons as we've gone through and checked these things. And I'm going to address both the line fire across the board. And some of this is also going to be from the bridge fire as well. But actual evacuated homes, about 5,494 homes are evacuated, where we had no contact at those homes. So they may be evacuated also, but they didn't come to the door. That adds another 4,631 that we're tracking. And of those homes during the evacuation, and I'm talking orders, the folks that have remained to stay that we're tracking are about 714. So when you think about the populations up there, we're talking in the 15, 20,000 area, particularly, in the Big Bear area. Now, right now, remember, we're just evacuating what's really the south shore of Big Bear Lake. So we are getting great cooperation. The roads, we're sending them down the back way, but the public is working with us, and they're doing extremely well about getting those things in terms of cooperation and absolute traffic flow. Last night, we had to make some modifications, and I'm going to switch gears on you going to the bridge fire. But to get all the residents that we needed to get out of the Wrightwood area, because that fire was moving so quickly, we actually had to shut down Highway 38, open up all lanes of traffic exiting Wrightwood to be able to get those folks out. But we've had great success with doing that. But like overall, when we're talking population, this has affected that number that's approaching and bridging, frankly, 100,000 is what we're looking at in terms of the displaced population. No. That is in total what we're doing across the board to give you an idea about who we can confirm is evacuated, what we can't confirm is evacuated. And this is really more dealing with structures, not persons. Any other question? Brian? Sure.
Absolutely, that's bad. And right now, we do not have concerns of them merging. No concern at this time. Well, obviously, that's a large, geographically, that is a very large footprint, right? So that would come all the way down into DeVore and out of Wrightwood and all that. There's a lot of population in there that would be very bad. And just trying to evacuate those areas and where we would put them would be huge and devastating to the people, the economy, and everything here in Southern California. That's correct. Up on Keller Peak yesterday. We always have a backup plan. That did affect our radio communications yesterday during the firefight in Running Springs. We do have backup repeater sites and communication sites up there that we were able to switch over to that still provided coverage for our folks. We just had to make positive confirmation and accountability of all resources that are out there that knew that site was down and that certain tone was out of service. No, it did not affect the overall firefight with having to switch over to those frequencies. Yeah, Operations Section Chief Jed, J-E-D. Last name's Gaines, G-A-I-N-E-S.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so yesterday, right, we had a southwest wind kind of coming up in line with the Santa Ana River drainage. So what that does is it pushes the fire in there, but then as that fire gets bigger and grows, the fire out ahead of it, as it's consuming fuel and burning vegetation, it starts drawing wind in from the other side. So we may have a southwest flow that's pushing the fire, but then it'll start drawing in wind, which reduces the humidity and it just fuels that fire. That's what fire needs is wind and oxygen. And so the more oxygen it can grab, the bigger it'll get. And then as the fire's going uphill, it'll, from the radiant heat, the convective heat, and all of that will influence it. It pre-dries out the fuels before they burn, so they're even more flammable than they were before the fire gets there. Yep, exactly. And so fire is the opposite of water. Water runs downhill fast that you can't outrun, and fire burns uphill, faster than we can outpace it. So
unfortunately, Brian, that's some of the evidence I can't share with you, but based on the evidence is how we know it was intentionally set or how we feel at this point it was intentionally set. Folks, as you can imagine, for our entire communities in San Bernardino County, of course, the folks in LA County that are affected by the bridge fire, and now all the other fires that we're seeing that have broken out across Southern California, it really, in all of our communities, it adds to that level of instability. We have the main command point that is out there in fire and the base and all the things that are going on, but please know, we have a number of smaller command posts across this county. I'm visiting them. I will be in Big Bear tonight. We are making sure fire is doing an amazing job at the attack of this. And like I said, the fire behavior is strange, or the flexing that's going on by both all the firefighters that are committed to this and law enforcement. I couldn't be more proud. And if there's anything I can assure all of our public is that these guys behind me and all the men and women that are out there in the field are our stability, and they're doing a brilliant job. I could not be more proud of the CAL FIRE investigators and our detectives out of Highland. This is true gumshoe cop work. And to be able to put together the things they've had in such a short period of time, and frankly, protect us from a person that I do believe could have continued this type of destruction. And let's hope it doesn't affect any lives. Their proactivity is really second to none. So I appreciate all of you coming here today and taking the time to cover this important issue for us. And I'll leave you with this. Please let the public know we got you. We're in the middle of this. We're handling it. And we are of you, and we're going to do our very best to take care of you. And I've witnessed it day in and day out. So thank you.